In our shared system of common law jurisprudence, and ours is based on the UK's, it has never been the case that the enforcement and recognition of contract rights is a function of majorities or referenda or plebiscites. You don't break contracts by appealing to notions of Athenian democracy. That isn't how the legal system in our two countries is structured. It's structured on the opposite assumption that people and businesses ought to have a substantial amount of freedom and discretion to enter into bilateral commercial agreements on whatever terms they see fit, and that both parties to those contracts ought to be able to count in the normal course, absent compelling reasons to the contrary, on the courts to uphold and enforce those contracts. And that, to me, is what the problem requiring a solution test is really trying to say. If the recognition and enforcement of occurrence policies can be made dependent upon whether other creditors who are parties to other contracts think that his contracts are useful or valid or worthwhile or should be upheld, then you're basically inviting chaos into commercial relationships. And the same thing can be said if the enforcement and recognition of his contracts or Goodrich's contracts in some sense can be made dependent upon whether the other part of the contract thinks it entered into a good deal when it issued the policies or subscribed to those policies many years ago. My views on this are that it's particularly applicable in the context of occurrence insurance contracts, because there you have a policyholder that pays a premium and performs up front, and you have an insurer that it issues just an executory promise to provide coverage for covered events that occur into the indefinite future as long as it's financially able to pay those claims. Now, in the majority of cases, the insurer doesn't have to pay out because the risk doesn't materialize, and nobody on our side of the ledger could plausibly argue that the insurer should pay back the premium and investment income. That's not part of the bargain that Goodrich struck, or that ExxonMobil struck, or that Textron struck. But by the same token, for the relatively small percentage of corporate policyholders who do sustain catastrophic losses and bought this cover as a hedge against catastrophe, they're entitled to expect, in our view, and I think in Lord Greaney's view, that the cover will be honored as long as the insurer is capable of paying the claims. Lord Greaney's ruling is simply a recognition of the importance that occurrence policies have to policyholders faced with our out-of-control tort liability system. He's not saying they're never going to be approved. He's saying that you have to come forward with a compelling justification other than simply transferring money upstream so that it can be more economically efficiently used. That's not revolutionary. That's not bizarre. That's pretty much a settled part of our jurisprudence.